So today what we're going to be doing is a quick run through of how this game works. So this is the setup menu. As you can see, we've got the three different values which you can change. The number of players, starting chip count, the small blind, all can be changed using these arrows. The start number of players can range from 2 to 8 as seen there. And the starting chip count can range from 40 to 400. And it increments in tens, and the players increment in 1. The small blind can range from 2 to 20, and it increments in 2s. So I'm just going to get a quick game running. I'll do it with 3 players, and I'm going to bring the starting chip count down slightly, probably around 200. And the small blind up to 6. We'll get a quick game going by pressing the start button. So as you can see, it's this player's turn here. So at the moment we're going to be playing a 2-player game. And the second player that has the dealer token right now is going to be the computer player. So the hand that can be seen, the 10 of spades and the 6 of hearts. This player, just below their cards, you can see a box that has 174 in. That's their chip count. To the left of that, they've got a token that signifies that they are the small blind. And to the right of their chip count, they've got a box that says 6. This represents the amount they bet this round already, in this betting round. As you can see, there is a 6 there, and that is the small blind that I chose in the setup menu. So that is working all correctly. If we go on to the next player clockwise, they are the big blinds. Their chip count is 168, and the amount they bet here is 12, which is double the small blind, which is correct. But if you look at their hand, you can see it's just a red design with a white outline for 2 cards. That's the back of the card, so we can't see what they actually hold in their hand. In the centre, we've got 5 shared cards, which is again just like the other player. At the back of the hands, we can't see the values they're in, and we cannot change any of these cards around if we want to. Just above the shared cards, we've got a pot, which says 30. That's just the sum of all the bets that have been placed by players this turn. If we go to the player that has the dealer token, this is the computer player. So the player whose turn it is straight off the bat is the player just to the right of the big blind clockwise. So in this case, it is the computer player, and they just played straight away without us realising, just because they could get into the game slightly faster than our eyes could. So what they've done is they've just met the big blind and they've not raised them. So I'm just going to meet the big blind with the player 3 that you can see here, and we'll get the flop dealt. So here you can see there are 3 cards in the centre. That's the flop. You can see a 6 of diamonds, a jack of spades, and a 10 of diamonds. So I've got a pair of 10s for player 3 straight out the bat, and a pair of 6s straight out the bat. So 2 pair is a pretty strong hand. So in this instance, you'd probably raise. I'm going to raise 14. So here we get to see the other player's cards for the first time. So if I wanted to, I could be playing against a friend of mine on this computer. I could be playing multiplayer on this against another player here. So the other player's got 9 of clubs and a 6 of spades. So you can see they've also got a pair of 6s, but they don't know what cards anyone else has got. So they might think this is a good hand, so they might see me here. So now we've got the computer player, the AI, thinking what they want to be doing. So they're looking at what we've done, deciding what they want to do. So here we can see they called the 14 and the game has progressed. So they're looking at all the different possibilities of cards. So we can see 3 cards here. They know what cards they've got as the AI. So there's 5 cards that both other players cannot have, and there's 2 shared cards that could possibly be. So it's just running through all the different possibilities that could happen in the future. And it's seeing if my hand is going to probably beat that hand or not. If it is, it'll take account of that, and then it'll get a guess. It will these guesses of whether they're going to beat them or not are dependent on what the player has done so far already. So if the player has been quite reluctant to bet, or if a player's been betting quite high, it will take this into account, and it will also look at the position of which the player is playing. So player 3 is the first person after the dealer, so it takes that into account. Player 1 is the second player or the last player after the dealer. So it takes that into account when checking and deciding whether the AI has a better hand than that player or not. So at the moment, it's just called to see what happens. So as we can see, Queen of Spades has come up. So this is the turn. This doesn't help my cards as player 3 at the moment, so I think I would just check. And then as player 1, we can see doesn't really help me either, but I'm going to raise it so we can see the functionality of the AI without the next turn ending. So we can see that the AI has just folded straight away there. They probably folded in the first hand, but as I said, it runs it so quickly it's quite hard to tell, because we want to keep this game flowing for the other players. Because nothing's worse in a poker game than having a full table of 8 players, and each of them are taking a couple of minutes to decide what they want to do, because the game will just slow down and it won't be very fun for anyone to play. So it's very important for the AI player to play very quickly and keep this game flowing. So I'm going to run through and get the end of this round and go on to the next round. So here we can see player 3 is now the dealer. It's one after who was the dealer last time, which was the AI player. And we can see that my hand has now changed. I've got a 7 of hearts and a 4 of spades. You can see that both mine and the AI players are around the same chip count, but player 1 chip count is a lot higher, so they must have won the last round, and they've got the pot from the last round. So if I was to bet here and see if I raise the AI player, we'll see what they do. And I'm just going to... So this player's got a Jack of Spades and a 9 of Spades. Both good hands, so I'm just going to match that bet from player 3 with player 1, so we can see what AI player does. So both player 1 and player 3 bet 16, which is 32. And if we subtract 32 from 48, we get 16. So we know that the AI player is still in play. So here we can see there's a 3 of spades, a jack of clubs, and a jack of hearts. So for my player up here, doesn't do anything for me. So I'm going to check. So player 1 on the left that's now showing, they can see that they've got a jack, so they've now got 3 of a kind. So they've got a really good hand, so they're going to want to bet high and hope that the computer comes in with them. The computer might think they have a better hand, they might not. It's hard to tell. So here we can see the computer thinking through all the different possibilities, and it thinks the computer can win against this guy. So he thinks, the AI thinks that they have a better hand than player 1 here. Obviously, because the AI can't see, it's fully working on the probabilities and actions of the player. It's not got a full sense of bluffing, anything like that. That is something I would implement if I was to come back to this project. So if we make this player fold because they haven't got anything, and for this player, if we just see them, we can see that it's now gone through. So we're just going to run through here and make sure that all the players are in. Hello. So you're calling it. There you go. So now we're going to do a run through of what it looks like with 2 players being selected. So I'm just going to choose a slightly higher chip count and a slightly higher smaller blind. So what this means is I'm going to be playing one-on-one via the AI. So here we can see my cards are the Ace of Diamonds and the Queen of Diamonds. Very good hand. I'm the small blind, so I'm paying 4, which is the value I've chosen at the start of the game in the setup menu, and the AI is the big blind, so they paid 8. In this instance, the AI is also the dealer, but as the dealer token doesn't signify the player needs to pay anything in terms of blinds, it is not shown, and the big blind token is. So if I just see the AI player here, we'll get to the flop, and we can see the cards I've got don't really match with the cards in the flop. There's a 6 of diamonds, a 10 of clubs, and a king of hearts. These do not really pair well with my cards in my hand, but the AI might have cards that do. So I'm just going to check and let it decide what it wants to do. So when there are 2 shared cards that aren't seen and 2 player cards that aren't seen, that is when there is the most possibilities for the computer to consider. It does not consider what the player has before the flop, because there are too many possibilities for it to do on my computer, because the hardware is not good enough for that, and probably the software. So now there is 5 of diamonds, so there is 4 diamonds on play in my consideration, because I have 2 in my hands, so there is a chance for me to get a flush here. I'm just going to bet a small bet here and see what the computer does. So here you can see it takes the computer a lot less time to figure out what it wants to do, because there are only 3 cards and 3 different possibilities of cards it needs to go through the order through. When there is 4 cards unseen, including the 2 shared cards after the flop, there's around 4 million possibilities it needs to run through. These will be shaven down dependent on what the player's been doing throughout the game so far and their position in play. In a 1v1, the position isn't really considered because it's a 1v1, but the bets are. So here we can see another diamond has come up. So I now have a flush. This is a 9 of diamonds. So I've got a flush with the 5 of diamonds, the 6 of diamonds, a 9 of diamonds, a queen of diamonds, and finally an 8 of diamonds. So I'm ace high diamond flush. So if I bet a 4 here, we can see that I won that round because I now have a higher chip count than the AI. So I got the pot from the previous round. As stated just earlier in this video, the AI plays very quickly to keep the game flowing. So here we can see I'm the small blind, and I have 3 of hearts and a 4 of spades. Again, I'm just going to see, this time I'll raise by 4 the big blind. So here we can see that they met me and we're now in the flop. So in the flop we've got a jack of diamonds, an ace of diamonds and a queen of hearts. Doesn't match well with my cards, so I'm going to fold. We can see that the chip count of the computer has increased and we're now going to continue playing. And if I check, it will go on to the computer player's turn. They've decided to bet, so I'll see them. And we'll just continue to check through. And we can see the computer won again there. And now their chip count's at 72. So that is a complete run through of our game, and we're going to end the video there.